Hi there and welcome back to Japan, where I have a very interesting interview with the man in the window. Yes, we are doing a wonderful conversation with a dear friend, Nick. Hello, Nick.
Hello, you can call me Mr. Nikku, as YouTube implies.
Yeah, I was actually wondering, are we best to go with screen names, or are we best to go with real names? Well,
Yeah.
So the reason we're talking, actually, I was introduced to you in a very amusing way, which is that after doing a BAND-MAID reaction and review,
Yes.
which due to its sudden dropping and me being on live stream, it was the one and only time that I gave into doing link and sync. Which is, for anyone who doesn't know, this is where you do a reaction, but you don't actually include the music for copyright reasons. You just basically have you reacting and hope that people will think to play the music behind you. My dear friend here posted a video in which he wonderfully used a bit of that footage to show just how ridiculous it looks when someone sits quietly in a hotel room nodding along to a piece of music.
And it was quite ridiculous, and that's why I chose it.
Yeah, I must admit, it's something that I've tried to steer clear of, but just due to the nature of the release and everything, I thought I'd dive into it. But this opened up an interesting topic, and we started talking in the comments of that video, which was, I should say, is a very amusing video. I thought, though, that we started a conversation which I thought was very fruitful about the very nature of what we both do. In that, obviously, just to cover my side of it, obviously, I think anyone who follows the channel I do knows that I do the sort of reaction format, which is mostly down to the fact that every time I bring this to the request of the people who follow the channel, they all really want me to do the reaction format, which is something that I started the channel kind of as a way of, if you like, being a counter to that. So usually after doing a reaction, there's about 10 or 12 minutes on average of analysis of the song. So I almost feel like the idea is to bring people in with a reaction and then suck them into an actual conversation. So actually I felt that we had more common ground, because your video was very much about how ludicrous the reaction format really is. So I wanted to give you an opportunity, first of all, just to give a little idea of what you do, introduce what you do, and also have a little bit of a talk about, because you started with reactions as well, but you turned away from that towards doing more edited videos. And I just wanted to give you an opportunity to sort of talk about how you got into it and where you stand on that kind of thing.
Well, that's very gracious of you. Yes, thank you. Real quick, the copyright claims on Japanese music specifically has been completely outrageous these days, so I don't blame you for just taking the audio to yourself and allowing listeners to also play back the same audio within the video. I think that's a very clever format that many other more successful, YouTubers have also utilized for such things as films and music as well. So I'll give you credit there, just like I gave you credit in the comments of that video. And I don't blame you for that either. Oh God, where do I go from here? So I guess I started YouTube. I started YouTube with podcasts centered around Denver local music, and I kind of privatized those because my channel was moving away from that. So then I went into music reviews, and after just a couple of music reviews, I gave into reaction videos, and it seemed to work. It seemed to work real well. It brought in a large audience per video, and at the time it was going great. But as I continued to do reaction videos, I moved from just all sorts of forms of music into Japanese music specifically. It seemed like a good niche. It seemed like just a good condensed area of music to center my channel around. And so I kind of ran with that for quite a while, doing reaction videos, trying to mix reviews and other kind of differently formatted videos within my channel for, I don't know, 3 to 4 months or so. And then it kind of hit me that I didn't want to do reaction videos for a number of various reasons, some personal and some, I almost want to say, on a moral level in terms of creative content here on YouTube. And so just recently, within the past 2 to 3 weeks, I guess you could say, maybe even less than that, I've broken away from the whole reaction video format, and I've stuck to sort of analysis videos, review videos, and just thoughts on certain releases, singles, EPs, albums, etc. And in my time of talking right now and the tangent I've been going on, I completely forgot the question you asked.
I perhaps cast the net a bit wide with that question. You did kind of answer what I was really aiming at, though, which is how you got into this and why you got into this. I'll certainly move. I'll move on to the subject of. Oh, you can see me, yeah.
Yeah, you did like a Matrix thing and kind of lagged out of reality and back in. But I got you now.
You're not supposed to tell people if you notice that. That's an ability I have.
Oh, edit that out. Edit.
In all fairness, though, like I say, you answered the basic question, but and we'll certainly move on to the Japanese music side of things a little bit later. I guess one of the things that I really wanted to talk about, because I actually think, like I say, this is a common ground with both of us. So feel free to show your outrage. But what is it that bothers you about reaction videos? Because I could certainly write a list myself. So I really wanted to get your side before we dived into that. Because you did cover some topics on your video, but I wanted to get a little bit more from you there.
Okay, well, being like an immersive and massive 300 subscriber channel, of course, I can clearly state facts and completely bury you in the ground, of course. So, from a personal level, I went to school for video and audio production. I think it's been 2 or 3 years now since I got my certificate in that, and that doesn't make me like a professional or anything by any means. I did have my own photography and video sort of company going for a number of years, but then the market here for video and photography as far as the music scene is concerned was so overrun with other individuals that I kind of gave up on it and went back to let's call it a government job. Okay, so that's what I do. But having that education and experience within video production, I feel better creating content that doesn't take an hour to record, edit, and upload. I feel much better spending 3 to 4 hours on a 2 to 4 minute video, just packed, jam full of content that I scripted, that I gathered content for, that I spend hours upon hours. I can't even detail the number of hours it takes to edit these stupid videos that last 2 minutes and will never get, monetized ad revenue from. But from a personal level, making reaction videos was kind of wearing me down. It was really dragging me through the mud, so to speak. I didn't like going from one video to another. I didn't like going from one band to another or one sound from another. I personally was not able to digest as well the music that was being presented to me through my channel, and that kind of took away from the listening experience entirely as far as my channel is concerned. And I know people still enjoyed my reactions, but I did not enjoy making them after a certain amount of time. And then from a professional level, I really prefer making content that I consider to be, once again, creative, right? And just that I can be proud of, that I take my time on. And although I'm not getting as many subscribers as I was with reaction videos, I do feel better with the content I'm creating. And it's not much of an argument, it's more of a personal addendum, so to speak.
I think that's a very fair comment. Ultimately, like I said, I think we share a lot of the same thoughts there. Having watched the video that you produced, one of the reasons why I took it in such good humor is because it was well made. I think if it had been a poorly made video, I would have probably taken it more as more in offence. But I saw it and I thought, well, okay, this guy's actually put some effort into this, and fair point. I mean, like I say, that was the one and only time in now over 1,000 reviews which I did link and sync, which is what made me stand back, because usually I agree it looks ridiculous, and I prefer to do the videos where you can hear the audio as well. I guess my biggest issue with the reaction videos is, I think, the one that most of us are aware of, the stereotype, which is that the majority of it is someone says, hi, subscribe, here's 1,000,001 graphics telling you to subscribe to my Instagram and everything. Now I'm going to watch this song, I'm going to pull random faces, and then at the end, I'm going to say, "Well, that was great. See you next time." This is something that I very much agree. Now, therefore, and again, doing a lot of editing myself, I know how long it takes to make even a short video like that. So for me, a lot of it, like I say, was to do these videos. If you do these, they'll come for the reaction, but they'll stay for the review. And so you can earn a lot of credit from doing that. But, the people who stick around are the ones who stay more long term. So I was wondering, in regards to what you're doing, and like I said, I've watched some of your videos, went through your channel, watched a bit of content to get an idea for it. And like I said, there's a real air of professionalism about what you do. You really obviously put a lot of effort into it. Do you feel that the people in your community, the people following your channel, do you feel that there's a sort of a type of content that they're coming for, something that they're staying for? Do you feel that there's something that you produce that you know is to their liking every time?
Yeah, real quick, I'm going to mention this. I don't know whether to look at my camera, you, or myself during this whole entire interview. Just putting that out there.
Natural. Wherever you're looking right now seems natural. I'm
sure.
wondering if you've got a dartboard with my picture on it.
What's natural to you is not natural to me, is not natural to the audience, which is a whole thing on perception. But
exactly.
So I think my greatest issue as far as reaction videos and the audience was concerned, that a lot of the audience that I found through reaction videos, I don't want to call them shallow, because I consider reaction videos to be somewhat shallow content at the same time. I know somebody's going to take offense to that. There's always somebody.
It's fair. Yeah.
But so, for example, I find people that come up to my channel, watch a reaction video of a specific band. It doesn't have to be, I'm not going to point out any bands or any names, right? But the people that come, I'm choking up. The people that come and watch that reaction video and watch me react to that certain band keep wanting me to react to the very same band or a collection of bands within the same genre or something. For example, people that listen to Slipknot also listen to everything else that Corey Taylor does. And so if you made a reaction video on a Slipknot video, they just want more Slipknot, or maybe they want Stone Sour after a while. But for me, I want to experience and enjoy more than just 1, 2, or 3 bands at a time. And a lot of the audience that comes from reaction videos, I feel like they want you to focus on that select amount of bands or that one genre and such. Yeah. And so through my analytics, I find that a lot of my watch time is very dependent on the fan base that's specific to the band. I've been saying specific so much. I'm like, my brain is taking a fart thinking, like, what else can I say? I should have the thesaurus.org up right now is what I should do. But that's what I find, is that shallow content breeds a shallow audience. And it's not the audience or the individuals that watch the videos that are shallow. It's the time that they spend on your videos, and they're very nitpicky about the videos that they watch on your channel.
Yeah, I think that it's fair to say that a lot of the time, I mean, like I said, there's kind of to reduce it, there's two types of viewer for that kind of content. And like you say, you can get, well, the majority I think you get are the ones who basically all they're doing is they're tuning in to see, someone else likes the thing I like. And please like more of what I like as a form of approval for me. One thing I noticed is that a lot of the time, and you've probably seen this from the statistics, if you do from the analytics, if you do a reaction video, obviously they're used to the picture-in-picture thing, you with the music video. Therefore, the minute they open the video, they'll go straight down to the play bar and they'll scan along to see where picture-in-picture appears. They'll go along to that just so they can see the reaction. They don't want to hear you say anything. On the recent videos that I've been doing since we had to restart our channel due to a copyright thing, as you mentioned. None of it is picture-in-picture because basically we put the reactions elsewhere and you have to click a link to go to the reaction, so you just get the review, only the review. With exception to the one video you found.
Lucky me. Yeah.
And thus I've noticed the analytics are brilliant. People come in and within 10 seconds, 75% are gone because they've scanned along and they can't find the reaction, which I'm kind of fine with to a certain degree. But the interesting thing that's come about, I guess I would say, from tenacity, from persistence with continuing with this format, is that the people who have stayed with our channel now are very much there to find music that they haven't heard of, and this I never expected. So I'll post videos by responding to bands that no one's ever heard of, and they'll probably get like 50 views, but they'll get a lot of comments, a lot of Discord buzz. And then I'll post something by BAND-MAID, it'll get like 2,000-3,000 views, not so many comments per view. So I feel like we're balancing the content between what is to grab attention, the things that are popular. I mean, I like these bands as well, so I'm going to listen to them anyway, might as well. And the things that bring people in. Have you found from any of your content, like you say, you've got 300 subscribers plus, which is still, it's a good large number of people. Have you found much in the way of them finding new artists through you? Are you starting to find that? Are you starting to find people are using your channel to find new artists? Because for me, that's the best feeling I've had from this channel, is people using us to find new artists.
That was the dream coming in, is that as I was exploring different artists and different musical genres and that I would also be helping other audience members, so to speak, find these specific bands. But it's actually been the opposite. A lot of these subscribers that I have, yes, have helped me find new bands, because when I started listening to Japanese music, J-rock, J-metal, whatever you want to call it, it was back in high school, and I graduated high school in 2009, so I think I started listening to Japanese music in 2007, and I probably quit around 2011, took a little break, didn't think much about it, and then once I started building my channel just last year, I feel like I missed a decade of music coming out of Japan, which is a real shame, because I missed a lot of great stuff, such as BAND-MAID, as we've been bringing up, as well as a slew of other artists. So my subscribers and community, personally, have been helping me find these new bands, but there have been a lot of people that have been recommending me bands that I guess it's not obvious, but I've listened to numerous times in the past. And I was just looking up a couple of videos, a couple of reaction videos I did. I did a reaction video to I always screw up their name. And that's just
I'm
the
looking
American
forward
in
to
me.
see it.
You're gonna have to help me. It's Versailles.
Versailles. Maybe Versailles. Is it the French name? Yeah.
Versailles?
Like Versailles, like the city. I'm going to be honest with you, my pronunciation is probably no better. I know there's a city of Versailles, and I think there's a band named after them. So so that's probably Versailles.
Okay, so
angry comments are appearing right now, just so you know. Carry on.
Please help us both. Yes, I did a reaction video to Versailles, and I just got over 1,000 views, 33 comments, and 86 likes. That was pretty good. That was decent analytics for a reaction video such as that. But then the next day, or maybe the next week, I can't really see right now, I did X-Japan, and I got well over 5,500 views, right? But I had 32 comments and only 139 likes. Comments and likes are almost equal to that of Versailles, but Versailles has about a fifth of the viewership, maybe even a quarter of the viewership. And so that was real wild to me at the time. I don't know why I'm bringing this up, to be honest with you. I already forgot. It's the ADD OCD in me, but I guess it shows such a split between fan bases, I suppose.
No, but this is valid, and I think that a lot of people who even follow channels, they might well see the statistics, but I think many of them don't really understand how that actually appears, those sort of comparisons that we see from this side. And it is true that you really do see the difference between fan bases. You really see that certain artists are more appeal maybe to a broader audience and therefore a very sort of casual audience. But then, like I said, I have some bands who have virtually no following. I'll post a video, get like 50 views, but then you'll find that like half of the people leave a comment or a like, because everyone who watches it is really invested in watching it. So I know, I do think that's a very valid, and it's an important point to make as well. So you did kind of allude to how you had got into Japanese music yourself, and I'm kind of intrigued by that, because most people who get into it, you hear a story of how they first heard it, and you mentioned it was around about the time that you were leaving high school that you got into Japanese music, you said?
Just a little bit before. I think I was dating some weeaboo girl, and her and her, yeah. Well,
that'll be a way. That'll be a way.
Yeah. But her and her friends were into Japanese music, and I was like an emo kid back then. I was listening to Census Fail and My Chemical Romance and Hawthorne Heights. I had no idea about any sort of type of music outside of my own country, except for maybe Canada and a little bit of Europe. But yeah, I didn't even think about Japan and Japanese music entirely until I was introduced to bands like Deer and Gray, The Gazette, Mook, and Garugamesh, etc., etc., and it really opened up a whole, much more broad horizon for me and my own musical collection thus far.
So, was it really you were sort of met with all of these artists at once? So, I mean, you were dating someone who just was clearly into everything Japanese. So,
right.
She was kind of throwing all of this at you at once, really. Was there any particular artist or any particular moment or sound that really hit for you that was the sort of moment when you went, actually, you know what, this is pretty good? Or was it just the whole thing as an experience, all of the music, kind of that wake up?
Right. So, I guess it really started with Mook and Deer and Gray. I think Deer and Gray at the time was doing a U.S. tour, and they had just released Marrow of a Bone, and that was kind of, a lot of fans consider their Americanized sound. It kind of helped them break through here in the USA, and at the time they were also touring with bands such as Slipknot again, and a lot of other American acts, and so that kind of opened up that sort of gateway into that music. At the time, for bands like Mook and The Gazette and the other ones that I mentioned, you had to, I hate to say, illegally download their music if you wanted to listen to anything by them. They weren't on iTunes. They weren't on Spotify. I don't even think Spotify was a thing back then. If it was, I wasn't using it. But it was really difficult to hear anything from Japan unless you were torrenting it on your computer. And so I have so many burned discs from back in the day of just all these bands and all these albums I stole from them. And I'm trying to make up the karma by going on eBay and finding these albums and just buying them and just erasing that negative karma that I got during my teenage years. It definitely opened up a whole new world. And you kind of said or mentioned something like it was all kind of thrown at me, but in a way I feel like it was presented to me. It was like a platter, and I got to choose. I got to listen to this and that and kind of see what I like. I didn't really like the band Nightmare back in the day, but then I listened to Garugamesh's second album, and I was like, "Oh, this is crazy! I love this!" And then they broke up in 2013, and I shed a couple of tears. But I think I can compare it to the first time that you listen to actual music. Like, during my childhood, I was stuck with the Power Rangers soundtrack, and then I remember hearing a song from the Daredevil, that terrible Daredevil movie. It was from Evanescence.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah, the one that's overplayed in a meme now. But I heard that during the Daredevil movie, and I said, Dad, what is that? What is that? And he said, "Oh, that's a little band called Evanescence." And he went out and bought their album. I said, Dad, can I listen to that? And I was like in middle school at the time, and that was honestly the first actual album from like an actual band that I ever listened to. And it's the same thing. You listen to the Japanese music, you hit that one or two or three different artists, and it's like you're listening to music for the first time again.
Can I just say, I really hope Amy Lee hears what has to be the greatest soundbite of all time. Well, that's a little band called Evanescence.
Hey, every band started as a little band.
Well, I mean, Evanescence is kind of an amusing one, because I remember the very first time they played that song, Bring Me to Life, in the UK. Mm-hmm. I was in a studio at the time that was played. And I remember the first time they broadcast, because this is back before like the internet was obviously sharing music so freely, and they made a big thing out of it. I was like, oh, this is an American band, you should really listen to this, blah blah blah. Here, it played it, and I remember I listened to it and I thought the same thing. I was like, wow, that's interesting. The sort of mixture of the orchestration, the, dare I say it, proper singing, which often is lacking in that genre of music. Having someone who can really belt out a proper melody with that kind of power. So I was really taken by that. But then again, actually, I've been quite amused when I heard Amy Lee do the songs with Wagaki Band recently.
Yep.
I must admit, I'm a huge fan of Yuka Suzuhana's voice. I mean, she's in the corner. Huge fan of her voice, but I was kind of intrigued because when they both did Bring Me to Life together, I didn't think that worked. I didn't think that worked at all. Hearing them both do that together didn't work. But when they did a song that they'd written together, I thought, well, actually, this does work. I was intrigued by the sort of mixture there. Do you think that was... What did you think about that collaboration? I mean, I'm assuming you've heard that from your reaction.
I did a reaction video on it.
Oh, okay, I didn't see it.
So, yeah, I was actually really into it. I actually enjoy the Oriental...
So, do you mean the Bring Me to Life performance, or do you mean their own song that they wrote together?
Well, both. I thought both were great, and I have noticed that there was a split between fans of both bands regarding the Bring Me to Life, I guess not cover, but rendition, so to speak. Yeah, and there is such a clear split. There are people who don't like it, and there's people like me who do like it, and that's fine. It comes down to, I guess, your preference. But I actually really enjoyed it, having listened to Bring Me to Life for God knows how many years on the radio and stuff now. It was kind of refreshing to me. And like I said, I like that Oriental twist on what we could consider a purely American track with, the goth rock vibes and everything. Yeah. I thought it was a real neat mixture between the Far East and the Far West.
By the way, does anyone know who was that guy on Bring Me to Life who was doing like the backing, the growly vocal, and then just disappeared from all existence and no one ever saw him again?
Was he not in Wagaki Band?
Oh no, this is on the original recording from like back in...
Oh, okay.
I never found the answer to that. And I remember that when they had the CD single, and this is how old I am, when they had the CD single of that come out, one of the B-sides for the CD single was labelled as the Bliss Mix, which basically was the exact song with him taken out. And I was like, there was some bad blood for this guy, whoever he was at the time it was released. I was like, by the time it went to press, there was already bad blood. I never found out who the guy was doing the growly vocal in the background.
I remember two of the members left the band after that release. And I think that, if I'm not mistaken, that was their debut album.
Yeah.
Wasn't it, with Bring Me to Life and all that?
Yeah.
So two of the members left, formed another band who I completely forgot, and so did everybody else. And I think one of them was the guy that you're talking about.
Okay. So yeah. Anyone who wants to know, just so we don't get bad press, look up Growly Guy from Evanescence. Okay, so yeah, I'm best of luck whatever he ended up doing for the last 2 decades. I don't know, but yeah, I'm always happy when I see those sorts of mixes. I remember I was really looking forward to that, the Wagaki Band Evanescence thing, and then ended up, like I say, leaving a bit lukewarm on it, but enjoying the song they wrote together. I was really not looking forward to the baby metal Bring Me the Horizon thing, because I thought this is not going to bring out. But then I listened to it, I was like, actually, you know what, that worked. I was like, that actually came together in a way that I thought, I didn't expect to enjoy this, but actually I enjoyed it. What did you think about that? I mean, again, I'm guessing you've already got a reaction.
Buddy, I listen to so much music, it's just crazy. Yeah. I have 500 CDs. You're talking about CDs and being old. I got 500 CDs in my bedroom right now, and I can't keep track of all the artists I follow. But I saw that, and I was like, oh, cool. This could be interesting, because Bring Me the Horizon has such a weird evolution, but they have been making strides ever since... I can't think of the album, but they've been making strides. And when I saw it, I thought, Baby Metal, Bring Me the Horizon. I had an open mind. I was like, this could be good. Sure, they haven't done anything too terrible, besides that weird kind of trip-hop ambient release that I think it came out in 2019 or something. It was really not my favorite. But when the actual song and the album came out and everything, I listened to it. I actually had trouble hearing the Baby Metal within the Bring Me the Horizon. I had trouble.
Yeah.
I had to listen to the track a few times to finally kind of string it all together in my own head. I think it was all right. I think it was okay.
I think that I approached it with the awareness that they were appearing as a featured artist, so I expected it to I expected it to be a Bring Me the Horizon song, but I was glad that they used them in the chorus, because obviously that sort of octave higher, the female vocal, it was nice, shifting to the female vocal in the chorus. It gives it that sort of elevation in tone, and so I thought that they did it in a way that it worked. It didn't feel like it was shoehorned, which so many of these kind of things do. It feel like you've pushed an artist in somewhere they didn't belong just for the sake of credit. So like I say, it was one of those things where stylistically I don't know if it was necessarily my thing, but I certainly came out of it going, I would listen to that again, and subsequently have. So it's interesting seeing these things, but so actually, one question I should probably ask before I move down that approach anymore is, I didn't even ask you, have you yourself actually been to Japan? I mean, what's your sort of relationship with Japanese culture as a general?
As much as watching YouTube videos has provided me. Yeah. I love Japan. I love everything about it. I love the culture. I love the religious statures over there. I love the music. I love the identity. Japan, just like Europe, is a very old country with a lot of antiquity to it and such. And I hope to visit there one day. In fact, me and my fiance, once we get married, are planning, I hope, a honeymoon to Japan. If not Japan, maybe Ireland and kind of across Europe and stuff. But I would really just kill to visit Japan just once, just even for a day. It would be a dream.
Well, I mean, at the moment, obviously, I think everyone's got the same limitation. Unfortunately, it's not financial. We're all sort of not allowed to travel. But it works out for me. It means that I can't even leave. Yay!
Do you speak Japanese, by the way?
I like to say that I speak Japanese in that kind of way where you think, he could work at a takeaway restaurant.
Okay. Gotcha. Yep.
It's functional. It's functional Japanese.
Yeah.
I must admit, I was as anyone who followed the channel, listened to me waffle too much already knows, that I lived in Sapporo originally, which is fantastic being in Hokkaido. I loved it, but very hard for work. But the thing is no one speaks English there, so you learn Japanese very quickly. Then I lived in Tokyo, where quite a lot of people speak English, so it becomes harder to learn. And at the current moment, I'm in Nagano, which is, I'm in a sort of on the side of a snowy mountain in a skiing area. I don't even ski, where virtually everyone here is a skiing tourist, and therefore learning Japanese becomes incredibly difficult. So it feels like I'm stepping up into harder levels of, can you actually learn the language in this environment?
But you've made it. I mean, that's incredible. I think that's inspirational almost.
No, thank you. I mean, it's one of those things, as with any sort of big leap for most people, I think there was a degree of life pressuring, got to that moment where it was kind of, well, it's got to be now or never. I've been to Japan so many times previously, I was like, well, I know I want to live there. Because, again, as anyone who knows this channel has probably heard me waffle about it too much, I won't go on too much about it, but initially before I first came to Japan, I didn't have any reason to be particularly interested in Japan. If anything, I had kind of grown up around a lot of friends who maybe were a bit, sort of a bit the weeaboo vibe. A lot of really heavy anime fans were in my school.
Sure.
So I actually, if anything, had a negative stereotype of Japan. And then I visited and I was like, wow, this is nothing like you people have made me think.
I hear you. I see all the anime kids and stuff, and the quote unquote weeaboos, and I feel like they have an unrealistic take of what Japan and Japanese culture is, simply based on manga and anime, and that's it. And I think there's a lot, like a ton more to a country than what they're what they're pouring out to other countries as far as stuff like anime.
I think that's true, and I think that as well. This is one of the interesting things again about talking to yourself, in that you seem to have your interests seem to just genuinely be you've followed the rabbit down the hole, so to speak. You've not gone with any preconceptions. But I do think that there are a lot of people who speak for Japanese culture, if you like, in a Western context, who maybe give off a bad impression. And with a lot of Japanese music now starting to, in its own way, seep through in the Western market and in America, I mean, like I say, baby metal have made quite an impressive impact. Do you think that people's opinions are... do you think that's changed people's opinions? Do you think that people are looking at... or are people just as a general a little bit more internationally minded now?
It's very broad.
It is.
I've putting that out.
Given you a big canvas to paint on here.
You are, and boy is it big. I want to kind of narrow it down to Japan right now. I can't speak on an international level, of course.
Yeah, sorry.
As far as Japanese and Eastern music is concerned, I can even toss like K-pop in there or whatever, because K-pop has been huge in the West. It exploded like for the past 3 or 4 years now. But I was going to make a video on it even. I think this is the perfect time, for people to integrate themselves into Eastern music and Japanese music entirely. I think that I've seen that music labels from Japan have opened up to Western countries, and now I don't have to torrent every album I want to hear by my favorite Japanese bands. I can listen to it on iTunes and Spotify, and that's terrific, but it wasn't like that a decade ago. No. I think that's incredible. I think that's a very strong foot forward in the right direction as far as the music industry in Japan is concerned, and I think it's going to help a lot of Westerners open up to other confines of music across the world, especially Japan, who has been so reserved in the past as far as music and band tours and the like. And I remember my dad, when he found out I listened to Japanese music, he said, "How can you listen to that? Do you understand what they're saying?" And I would try to explain to him, Dad, I don't have to understand the language to understand the music.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the most important part, and I think a lot of people are opening up and seeing that. I strongly believe that bands such as Baby Metal and BAND-MAID, I wish there were more. I guess Duran Gray has done their part, and Mayavi himself has also had a strong influence touring across America as well as at least the major cities. I think bands such as that are finally introducing Westerners to Eastern-style music from Japan, and I think it's a tremendous feat between both sides of the world.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Miyavi as well. I did, about 6 years ago, I actually did an interview of him in London, and he was interesting. I think that there is this sort of character that you can have, because I remember saying at the time that I found him to be kind of difficult to interview, kind of difficult to talk to, because he seemed to be he seemed to have such a prepared list of answers for every question. It was like everything was very much, he always went back to a certain answer. I think there is this thing where when Japanese artists are presenting themselves to a Western market, they're very interested in getting a certain image. Image seems to be really important. Now, we've talked a few times on this channel about bands, very high quality bands using an image to break through, to be noticed in the West. I mean, Baby Metal is obvious. It's the sort of mixture of J-pop and metal. I mean, that's going to
kawaii metal.
Yeah, kawaii metal. Yeah, it's going to raise eyebrows anyway. BAND-MAID, one look.
Yeah.
Do you think that there are many... Do you think there's room for bands breaking through in the West who are not using sort of a specialised image? Do you think that people are still relying on that novelty factor with Japanese music?
It's another big question. It's kind of hard to give a real world answer to, if you know what I'm saying. But
well, from your opinion, I mean, when you look at it, what do you see?
I see a lot of bands, even in their own countries, having trouble breaking through without an image. I mean, you look back, and for example, Marilyn Manson would have never broke through his music scene unless he had that image of Marilyn Manson. And I think he's an easy pick in terms of an example for that. And there are plenty of bands that have made it through and into a larger status in terms of the music industry without an image. But I think an image really solidifies and helps a general audience or even a target audience become comfortable with the band, because the first thing you see is not the first thing you hear. So I think a lot of people look at a band before they actually listen to a band.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the split between whether or not a band is required to have an image to be successful or not. We can even look at BAND-MAID. I mean, they look like a bunch of maids, but they play kick-ass rock and roll and metal, right? But I don't think a lot of people would have found interest in them if they weren't just a bunch of, I hate to say this because I know BAND-MAID fans kind of touchy as far as I'm concerned, but
It's true, dare I say.
It is.
I have come across some of that.
it's a group of a bunch of Japanese girls playing metal that's harder than what a lot of people would say Led Zeppelin or Jimmy Page and stuff could play. And I think that's the takeaway. I think that surprises people. I think that surprise in that initial image and then into the actual sound of the band is what captured them in the first place.
I think that there is that element that with Japanese artists, because they are, from a Western perspective, they're overseas, they kind of have a little bit more free rein to be a little bit more crazy because they know they're the outsider. And I do think that when you look at things like BAND-MAID, there's a degree of sort of, whether knowing or unknowing, a degree of genius to the approach in that, as you say, it's something that after listening to it, it's great. Regardless of what you're wearing, it's great. But it does make it much more tempting to listen to when you look at them and you go, I have to know what sound comes out of that.
You got a minute? I found this out during a passcode video I made.
Okay.
So I was doing some research on YouTube, and there's this guy that put up this video, and it's completely as this ridiculous title, but it's like Little Japanese Girl Does Death Metal Growls. If you've listened to Passcode, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, yes.
It's this 5'4" Japanese girl doing death metal growls like she's from Behemoth or something.
Yeah.
And that was the shock and awe value behind that. And I also want to add real quick, if the band doesn't have an image, at least have a logo that people can recognize, because I see that works too.
That's a very good point.
One of my favorite bands from Finland is His Infernal Majesty.
Oh, yeah.
And they got the classic heartagram.
Yeah.
And you look at the heartagram and you know exactly what it is, where it's from, and who it's from.
I think that both, just thinking through it now, as with anyone who does these sort of editing videos, I've got a little folder of all the graphics for all the band logos on my computer. And I go through that, and there are some which really stand out. Like the Babe Metal one obviously is very obvious. The BAND-MAID one's very obvious. You can tell he's been made well. But then there's some bands who I don't feel really have one. Like, for example, Scandal. Such a sort of fantastic institution of Japanese music. But they've got a couple of logos, but none of them really... none of them are really recognizable. It's not something where you immediately go, oh yeah, that's the Scandal logo. Same thing for Silent Siren. They seem to have changed their logo a bunch of times, but never really sort of landed on something that really is immediately recognizable, other than just writing their name. I do think you got a good point there, actually. I think a good graphic goes a very long way. But interesting enough, actually, you're mentioning about the growl. The first thing that comes to my mind when I think of the growl is that this is a difficult territory in music. When Lady Baby in their later days were doing this, when they were a four-piece, they actually managed to do it quite well. Again, small girl does growl. But then there's groups like Broken by the Scream. Yes, I'm going to bring this up. Broken by the Scream. Have you got an opinion on Broken by the Scream?
I'll be honest, I have no idea who you're talking about.
Okay, that's probably saved us something.
Yes.
This is I've always got to think, I like to be very honest on the channel, but if there's a group that I'm obviously not liking, I don't like to flog the dead horse too much and keep on beating up on one
Right.
band. So twice is enough. And this was a group, I listened to them twice, and I had to admit, I was like, I cannot find any angle by which I can enjoy this. The screaming was so growly, so forefront, and so completely encapsulating all of the music. Now, I'm gathering from your taste, things you mentioned, that you probably lean a little bit towards the heavier music. You're probably more of a sort of a rock and metal fan. I would assume that's probably where you would normally place your interests, would you think?
Well, it's funny because all my friends started in like death metal, black metal, doom metal, and all that back in my high school days. And I was in kind of the hardcore emo scene, like I said. And I moved in the punk. I'm talking about like '80s punk rock and stuff. And that was a fun phase in my life. And then I kind of moved towards
Very fast
I moved
phase.
towards like European goth rock for a bit. And then in my later years, I love quotations, by the way. My later years, I have moved into, yes, heavier metal. And it really doesn't matter to me. One of my favorite artists is James Blunt, if you know James Blunt.
Yeah.
You're beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And it's not like I'm stuck in this time warp of just heavy metal music. I do tend to listen to everything I can, but in terms of favorites of now, I'm probably leaning more towards the heavy metal side of music, like you said.
No, that's absolutely fine. I mean, again, I think something that anyone who visits your channel will be aware, there is a sort of a good balance of interest in just music as a general. But I think everyone, like you say, everyone has that kind of area that maybe they originally listened to more when they were younger or something like that.
Right.
The reason I bring this up is because I'm very interested in what your opinion on this is, because we've talked about this a lot of times in our Discord. The use of the sort of the death metal growls. Now, the example that I always use, that I think is a perfect balance, actually is Chester Bennington from Linkin Park. I think that idea that you can do something that has that sort of almost atonal growl, but also be in tune, also have a sort of a pitch to it. Then you have some who just do it with like little blasts of energy, a lot like Passcode again, where it's just kind of like, here, we're going to hit you around the head with a club a couple of times to enforce the energy of this song. But there are some groups who I feel really lean on that. And this conversation came up on the most recent Unlucky Morpheus song, which I thought it was a good balance, and some thought it was
Did
too
they
much.
release something?
Top of the M?
Oh, okay, from their last album.
Yeah,
I
don't think that's too recent, but I think that's the latest one.
Okay.
And that actually raised a lot of conversation because I'm a big fan of Fuki's voice. I think she's a great singer. And when I reviewed that song, I said, well, I thought the call and answer balance was quite good, but I think some people felt that it was too much. I mean, what's your feeling about this? Do you feel that, do you feel it's something that is fundamentally you can base a song around it, or do you think it can be problematic when people overuse it?
It depends on the band and the genre.
Okay.
If the band's genre is specifically just straightforward black metal, death metal, doom metal, I mean, those are the top three that use death growls and the like. I think it's integral to the band. I do like what you mentioned is different pitches within growls. I think that shows a sort of uniqueness to both the vocalist as well as the band that the vocalist has been integrated into. For bands such as Passcode and the like, who only use growls, I guess you could say ever so often, Passcode, Unlucky Morpheus and the like, I think it goes back more to the shock and awe factor. I definitely think it adds to the music, but I don't think it adds to anything new, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. So, what you're really saying is that for groups who have based their sound more around that, who maybe it's more genre necessary for them,
right,
then the requirement is more for them to do it with a certain style, a certain identity that demonstrates that they're doing it with, if you like, some form of skill, some sort of artistry. Whereas for other groups where it's put in more for punctuation, that maybe then it becomes... So if anything, if it's done for punctuation, you would say that's probably a more difficult ground, because then they have to work harder to justify it being in the song.
Right, and then even on the opposite spectrum, I've been working on a video recently for a band called Dark Tranquillity. I don't know if you know who that is.
Heard the name, but I don't know anything about them.
Melodic death metal, basically. Okay. And I've been following... God, I'm... Edit all this out. Let's wrap it, let's start again.
It's going to be like an 80s rap mix, just constantly. Yeah.
I've been working on this video for Dark Tranquillity's most recent release, and I'm going to say it's lukewarm as far as the release is concerned, not to give too much away. But on the opposite spectrum, this is a melodic death metal band that death growls and the like are very essential to the sound, but when the lead vocalist also uses clean vocals, it's like a spark of just... It's something different. It's something a little relaxing, uplifting. It kind of breaks the general formula of the song. So just as bands use death growls to add that sort of shock value into their music, so do death metal bands and the like use clean vocals to essentially do the same thing, which is move away from the formula and add something a little more unique and different in terms of their defined sound and genre.
Yeah, I think that the one thing that seems to be true in almost any genre is that contrast is essential. Having that, you can't sound loud if you're always loud, because you set the bass level so high that if you're constantly turned up to 11, it doesn't actually sound loud anymore. I think you need to be able to have those quiet moments to give impact to the louder moments. So I agree. I think this is also why, for me, the sort of the screamo stuff, the growl stuff, really needs to be used, for my taste, it needs to be used more as punctuation, because then it hits harder. Whereas when I listen to something like sort of doom metal, where it's constant, it almost doesn't feel doesn't feel loud. It just feels like you're just kind of growling your way through this.
That's so sad, because I love doom metal. I love doom metal more than black metal and death metal combined. But I get what you're saying, and it's like, okay, can we try something else maybe? Can we do something a little different this time? No? Okay, that's all right. But that was my issue with Passcode's most recent album, is that, and fans argued with me, and they can do that. You know, they have opinions of their own. I'm no music master myself, but Passcode's latest album, to me, just sounded like a retread of everything else they've made since, I think, 2014.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really dived through the album. I've listened to the singles.
Sure.
And I kind of, I came to a similar conclusion. I think I sort of went for that old quotation that if you're already a fan, then this will press all the right buttons for you, but it's not going to win over anyone who wasn't already on board. It feels very much like fan service. But the thing that interests me a lot about Passcode is that they do have this wonderful flair for just the songwriting. The songs will go in really bizarre directions, but you never feel like you're being thrown off. You feel like you're just being like a roller coaster. You're being dragged in unexpected directions, but it all feels very deliberate. It feels purposeful. It feels like it works. I know Passcode, I think more than any other group who I touch on regularly, they really separate people. People really have very split opinions on them. And a lot of that, in the same way we were mentioning growling for the heavier side of music, a lot of that with them is the electronic, the production side. Now, I remember on the previous channel...
I completely agree.
Yeah, and...
Sorry.
Yes, no, sorry. Just one thing I wanted to mention before I pass it on to you. I remember on the previous channel, I did because we had the community page before it was taken from us. We had the community page, and we did a poll actually asking people, what is your opinion on the use of things like autotune? Do you think that it's good as an artistic tool? Do you think it should never be included? Or do you think that it's okay, but it's not something that you look for? And we found that about 80% of people were actually fine with autotune. 80% were fine with autotune being used as a creative tool. So, yeah, this is kind of how I wanted to pose this to you. What's your feeling about that sort of heavy production approach, which I guess you could say is the opposite from what a lot of metal fans would
So, so having surrounded myself with musically inclined friends and being in a few different bands myself, as well as composing my own music, which is its own thing entirely. But so what I've come, oh God, how do I say this? So,
No pressure. You've got time.
if do I? Because I haven't been keeping track. I've been depending on you for that.
Oh, that's fine. I'll keep going till one of us passes out. So
It'll be a long night. So, if you like auto-tune, great. I think most of popularized music not only utilizes auto-tune, but has a lot of heavy editing involved within the audio structure, the mixing and the mastering of every track to every album and EP in a big band, you know, and that's why I kind of like punk rock music, because these guys would just record it in their garage, and yeah, it sounded like crap, but it had so much soul and feeling to it that I couldn't help but just jam out, you know, like a madman. But in terms of I don't even want to say overproduction. Let's take Passcode, for instance, who uses auto-tune, and they use it, fans will argue in terms of artistic direction. And that is an argument, and it's not one that I can really justify nor argue against. That's really dependent on the band and how they see their music and how they write their music. And am I okay with it? Sure, but then I take a band like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, who I previously thought used just a crap ton of auto-tune, but they actually have a vocoder. And I used to have a vocoder myself. It's a real fun instrument to use. It really is. Being a keyboardist and, you know, all that kind of stuff. A vocoder is just kind of just fun. It's just fun. But to utilize it in a band that the way that Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas has, I think, is very daring. I think it's very aggressive in terms of sound. But the issue I have with a band like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, who I've taken a dump on several times now on my own channel, is they don't really change the pitch of the vocoder, and it just sounds like auto-tune 5 times over. So that's why I couldn't tell it was a vocoder. I thought they were just overproducing the vocals because the vocalist couldn't sing worth a damn.
So they've got the kind of this templated preset that they just use all the time.
Yes, yes, that's what I thought. I didn't even know.
I think that's actually probably when I first started listening to Passcode. I think I probably said after the first review I did. And by the way, you're lucky to have that much hair. Don't complain. I'm not
complaining. I'm trying to move it out of my way right now. Yeah.
I think after the first review I did of Passcode, I remember actually saying, well, is this their sound all the time, or is this something they'll change up? And I guess probably my only disappointment with that effect they use is that they always use it in exactly the same way. I would like to hear them, if that's a creative choice, which it appears to be, I'd like to hear them utilize that in different ways. So I think, to me, I can accept any choice of sound, any form of production, so long as it feels like a deliberate creative choice. And the comparison I often use is that if someone is going to use vocoders and auto-tune all the time, is that really any different from always using distortion on your guitar?
Sure.
It's just, both of them are just effects, which in both cases arguably make it easier to play the instrument. So I think that's always an interesting argument that comes up. But I'm talking of guitar. Watch this segue. Talking of distorted guitar, let's move on to BAND-MAID again, because I do actually.
Oh, very clever, very good.
It's amazing because, of course, we all know that they are the only band who uses distorted guitars.
They only had the one pedal, the one front pedal, and nothing else. I got you.
It just says on, and then. So, well, this has been a big point that's come up because. Obviously, they switched over to Pony Canyon recently. I did a whole video talking about that. I did a couple of videos talking about that, actually, because it's a big subject. I've worked with Pony Canyon before. I have a lot of faith in them as a company, but I am aware that they are sometimes caught in what we would call old-fashioned Japanese marketing tactics. And there has been some concern that the new CDs come out in about 15 different variants, but that they haven't bothered to actually release any schedule for music videos thus far. It's like, here's one video.
That's just what Japanese bands do.
Well, yeah, I mean, as you say, that it's kind of changed. I mean, I guess for me, the nail in the coffin will be if they release a video and it's 1 minute 30 seconds and it's a short version in brackets at the end. So that's when I'll start being concerned. What is because obviously you've been commenting on them as well, and in the video that we were talking about, actually, you did make some comments on them, which I found quite interesting. But it was a sort of 2.5 minute video, and I felt that I wanted to hear more of what you thought about this, more of what you thought about their direction, because it seems to me they're a band who want to be creative. They want to do more. They want to really sort of spread their wings, so to speak. But there, I think, is also a certain fear of upsetting the fans who very much know what they want from them. From that perspective, I mean, what do you kind of expect from them? I mean, sort of broadly speaking, what do you think their direction is?
Okay, well, I mean, my video on the Afterlife single and the future of BAND-MAID, I really tried to condense all my points into that 2.5 minutes, because I could spend an entire 8-hour session with you just talking about BAND-MAID in that one single, and it wouldn't do me any good. I really wanted to hit the main... It wouldn't. I really wanted to hit the main points. I could be like everybody else who's talking about the technicality and the chord progressions and the riffs and stuff, but it would be the same old stuff that I discussed with songs like Domination and the like. I think BAND-MAID is playing it safe right now. I really do. I don't want to say they're stagnating, but they're definitely staying in a safe zone. I think half of the reason why is what you brought up. They don't want to disappoint the fans, and the fans, as we both know, are a bunch of a little bit picky middle-aged men who have this sort of expectation for the band. But I don't see a song like Afterlife or even this album going any further than World Domination or even Conqueror did. From what I hear, it just sounds like more BAND-MAID, as I said in my video.
Did you feel that Conqueror was a step in a more creative direction after World Domination?
Well, that's going to lead the bias, because I really love World Domination.
Okay.
Like that's my favorite album by them. I think it's them at peak performance, honestly. And then I listen to Conqueror. I think it's almost a step down, but it's a big staircase. It's a very big staircase to climb. So it's not far from where the apple fell, but it didn't excite me. It didn't thrill me. It didn't do anything for me that World Domination hasn't already done.
Did it? So, because obviously I've spoken in a very long degree about my opinions on both of these albums. For me, I mean, just to quickly cover, I felt that Conqueror added a lot, and I felt a lot of what it added was kind of there felt like there was more emotional content to it as well, and more variation in the tone. Whereas I felt that World Domination had some of my favourite songs by the band, but at the same time, I felt that it slipped into... I mean, there were 2 songs on there that, to me, I thought, well, these songs almost cancel each other out. They're so similar. And that was kind of my feeling there. So did you feel that Conqueror added more variation at the expense of perhaps the tone, the feeling that you liked from what World Domination had? I'm kind of interested to see what you felt was missing from Conqueror.
It's not that anything was missing. I'm actually looking on my iTunes right now at the album Conqueror, looking through the songs just to kind of refresh my memory and remind myself what was a part of that album. And I guess, like I just said, nothing's missing, but what has been added feels like it's been added from, let's say, albums like Just Bring It. Yeah, that looks about right. Honestly, nothing has been taken away in terms of sound, tone, quality, color, technicality or anything. I'd like to see something added. And Conqueror just felt like a retread of 2 or 3 years ago for the band, and then World Domination, for me, sounded like just a completely new push, punch in the gut kind of sound that we haven't really heard. We've heard bits and pieces, but it really seemed like it was put together. it's so, talking about music, it's like talking about philosophy almost.
Mm.
It's such a big subject, and it could go on forever. I just don't feel like Conqueror did for me what World Domination did for me, and that was excite me and make me a BAND-MAID fan, honestly.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, I think probably, like I say, I think ultimately we kind of seem to have the same feeling for the opposite albums, really,
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting. I mean, as you say, the whole thing about talking about music, anyways, it's such a subjective thing that almost all of it just becomes just sort of circular arguments. But it is interesting to see what triggers people's interest, what makes people like certain things. So, realistic, when we're looking at the new album, I have to say that my current feeling is that I'm starting to slowly have a little bit of concern that the album is going to sound like a retread. That is what concerns me. At this point, I think they have such a wealth of hard rock songs that I kind of want to hear them deliver an album that completely goes against what anyone wants. Just to see. Just like, okay, drop some pop songs on there.
Sure.
Just go crazy, because you can't erase the songs you already have. So roll the dice. But as we said, and I know this is a touchy subject, but there is that issue of the fans, and fans get very upset. They seem to. One of the things that I try to do as much as possible is, having worked in the studios and in the companies with these sort of bands, I know that what happens behind the scenes often looks very different from what the fans claim is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So there is this sort of thing where people build up their own version of events, their own sort of, they create a world that they very much believe in. Do you think, here comes the risky question.
Oh.
Do you think that there is shall we say, a problem with too many fans having this sort of, they say toxic fandom, this make-believe version of the artist they like? Or do you think it's just kind of, it's good to have these fans around because they all basically pay money? So basically that balance between, is it good to have more fans but a lot of this kind of thing, or less fans who are like that and more room for creativity for the artist? I mean...
Right. Yeah, no, you got bands that try and widen their audience while also lessering their sound to something that original audience members will not recognize, and that usually backfires. And then you have bands that keep treading the same solid ground year after year, album after album, and yeah, they're making money off the same fan base, and the fan base stays happy, but they're not doing anything unique, significant, and they're not bringing in any new fans in that way either. And then you have a band, right away, I think Bring Me the Horizon went from, what was it, that crappy deathcore that they started with, to this whole new entire mixed genre that they've come up with of 5 different genres that I could only, pinpoint at this exact moment. And their old fan base has either gotten used to their new sound or has given up on the band entirely, but it doesn't matter because they've gained millions of new fans by doing so. So it's almost a coin toss. If BAND-MAID wants to play it safe, that's fine. They clearly have their audience, but I think in terms of their Western audience, that fan base is going to expect the same thing. Whereas me, a younger individual who didn't grow up on Led Zeppelin and Rush and the Police and stuff, I don't care how close or how comparative to classic rock and metal that BAND-MAID is. I just think they sound great. Yeah. So that's why I listen to them. Whereas the Western fan base, I feel like, is strongly relating BAND-MAID to the classic sound of music decades now past. And if BAND-MAID wants to capture a new, let's say, younger audience or just new target audience entirely, that I firmly believe exactly what you said. They need to just do whatever the hell they want.
I was quite surprised when I saw them in Shibuya, when I saw them live.
Oh, lucky boy.
Well, I actually, it was really fun because I remember I walked in there and I actually got recognized by people. I thought, well, that's the power of YouTube. It's like,
cheers,
this is Not what I came here for, but hi.
Hey, literally over 50% of my audience is from Japan,
Yeah.
so I will never see half of my audience ever, except you right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing the sort of power of doing this sort of thing. It's interesting because you don't think about it until you're met with it face to face. But
Hmm.
I was kind of intrigued that when I went to see them live, like you say, although the statistics all bear it out, I was surprised how old the average age of their listeners were. Because I had previously seen Puffy, and of course, Puffy,
Okay.
totally different.
You're talking about Puffy Yami.
That's what they called in America,
Okay. Well,
thanks to a lawsuit from P Diddy. True story. True story.
I remember the show. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But of course, they're in their 40s now, and I remember when I went to see
Hmm.
them, their fan base was really spread out. You know, some people were older, obviously knew them from the 90s, and they had a lot of really young fans well. And it's not to
Yeah.
say there wasn't variation in the BAND-MAID audience, but I felt as a general, the audience average age was certainly over 30. Yeah, probably in their 40s for the best part.
Yeah.
And yeah, that kind of struck me at first. So I think there is a degree that they are appealing to that kind of audience. So I guess you could say, is there, well, this is how it appeared to me, is there a sort of a growing number of people now who are in their 30s, 40s, you know, sort of adult music listeners who actually want to find new music, which of course wasn't something that so much was true if you go back a couple of decades. So do you think there's a whole market really now for people in that age bracket? That itself is a market that's starting to grow.
I feel like a younger audience is more malleable to newer sounds and
Yeah.
breakthrough music. And that's the issue with age. And I don't want to be ageist or whatever they call it, whatever the PC police call it anymore.
Don't
You
care
know,
what they say. Just
well, it's nothing. If you're a middle-aged man or woman, fuck it. Or, sorry, censor that. But, like, fine.
you can say whatever you want here. We have no censorship. Go for it.
But I'm not here to tell you that you're too old for BAND-MAID or that somebody else is too young for BAND-MAID.
No.
All I'm saying is that and I feel it too, just turning 30. I know that's still young, right? But even though I feel old, the older you get, based on experience with older individuals, including my parents, like parents-in-law, older friends, I enjoy older people older than me, because I can't deal with the younger generation. They're just all over the place. Hello. So, hello. So, as you get older, I feel like you start to limit yourself on what you listen to and what you are more comfortable in discovering, because you enjoy what you grew up with, you enjoy what you listen to, and you have enough music, you have that repertoire, you have your own album collection and back, you're solidified, you're good. Just like your beliefs in religion, politics, etc. At a certain point in life, you just got to say, okay, let's stop experimenting and just stick to what we know and what we like. And for people like myself,
Yeah.
and probably yourself, we're one in a million. We'll keep looking for new bands and new music to discover and feel thrilled by the experience. But not everyone is like that. And I think that is the boundary. That's the line in the sand that's hard to draw.
I think that is actually a very interesting point. I think that I remember reading something quite a few years ago, and I'll be honest, I don't know how reliable the source of this survey was, but it did seem to bear out. Was something talking about the psychology of when people turn 30, which, like you say, is still very young. But when people turn 30, as a general, they do start limiting themselves. And one of the main ones is they find that most people over the age of 30 just immediately stop looking for new music. And this is quite a common trend, apparently. But the interesting thing is, I think that, as you say, those younger audiences are quite malleable. They're very easy to follow trends, but often at the same time, I don't think so much have the developed taste of what they like and why they like it. Whereas people of that age, where they stop listening, actually do have a more solid idea of what they enjoy and probably would benefit more from looking for music. Again, talking about people on the community we have here, when I look at my analytics, there is a lot of people in their sort of 40s, 50s, even 60s on the channel. And a lot of those, I think, are the people who I see often in the comments talking about, oh, I just found this new band through your channel. Thank you very much. You know, really enjoyed them, etc., etc. So I think there is that quality that when you get to our ripe old age, that you probably do know what you like better.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any like changes in your taste? Anything that you would have thought before, I would never listen to this, or maybe just I would never expect to enjoy this, that you're now finding yourself enjoying?
You know, it was about a month ago. I tried listening to Marilyn Manson and Nine Inch Nails again, and I just grown out of it. I was like, this is so angsty. What the hell? I'm a guy with a full-time job, about to get married, looking for a house. This does not appeal to me. So, yeah, there is that certain spectrum where I'm like, I'm kind of done with this crap.
Yeah.
There's this Hawthorne Heights song that's like, slip my wrists and black my eyes. I'm like, I don't understand it anymore. You know, when I was like a depressed teenager, I was like, yeah, this is great. But now I've outgrown it. So there are some things that I have personally outgrown in my semi-ripe age. And there is some stuff that I found that I like that I didn't before when I was a teenager. A lot of like heavy metal. It's so funny because my friends back in high school were into like the heaviest bands possible, you know, and I was into that emo rock crap, and I was like, yeah, slit your wrists, right? And it was good for me. And then later in life, I found I liked that heavy metal stuff like Opeth and Dream Theater and Behemoth and all these other bands, and I feel like I almost missed out back then in my teenage years, but I'm making up for it now. So it is this weird dichotomy of, yes, there's this handful of music artists, idols that I adored and loved and even have got tattoos of, and now that I'm 30, I look at that tattoo, I'm like, well, I guess I'll keep it because it costs more money to remove it, but there is that.
Yeah. I think that's very true. I think there is that element. But actually, one of the things you kind of mentioned there that kind of, actually, that's an interesting point. I think that you said about making up for lost time, and I think that a lot of people think that it's almost like we believe that age is the age when you should be finding music, when realistically, in all sort of logical sense, actually it makes more sense to find creative things when you're older, when you have a better idea of what you like, and when you're perhaps a bit more balanced, you know, when you can listen to Fred Durst and go, what the hell are you talking about?
Yes. It's the old saying, youth is wasted on the young.
Yes, very.
It's the same concept.
It's, again, one of those phrases that's so easy to say once you're over 30. Mm-hmm. So.
I'm still young. Everybody tells me I'm young. I do manual labor for a living. I feel like I'm 50, you know?
Well, I mean, I very much stand by the fact that my 30s have been definitely the best decade of my life, so much better than my 20s. Because it is that fact that you're, like you say, you're not old, you're physically fine, you're a long way from having any sort of signs of age.
Which
and yet,
scares me for the future.
Yeah, but that's so far off. That's so far off.
You say that, but turning 30, it happened in a blink of an eye. And you know what I mean.
Hey,
you know?
Nothing changes. Nothing
Shut
changes at all. That looks suits you. Looks suits you. Join the club. So yeah, no, I think that there is a certain truth that this is one of the things that I think it's a job that I think people like ourselves, when we do what we do, I think it's an important thing is to appeal to people who have a mature sense of music. I mean, appeal to everyone, but finding those people who have a genuine interest, know why they like what they like, enjoy talking about it. I think those people don't have anywhere to go. I think that is a sort of a market of people who are wandering around with nowhere to really go. I mean, music is so ubiquitous now with things like Spotify and everything that there's no concentration point for discussing music in that kind of sense. I mean, just from your perspective, I mean, do you actually feel that's a thing? Do you feel that there are a lot of people who want to talk more about music, who are maybe mature in their music tastes, who just don't have anywhere to really discuss it?
I feel like there's a lot of people online who want to talk about music that they're already integrated into, which is fine because it opens people like me up to these bands, like I said previously, an hour ago, that I've never heard of before. And I found I either love it or hate it, but 95% of the time I love it. So, but
Well, it's experience either way.
yes, and there's definitely that intersection, that communication between people, where somebody, even like yourself, reviews or reacts to a band that somebody else hasn't heard of, and they watch that reaction, and then they find that band and they find they like it too, and then all of a sudden you have that connection between two outlets, between two individuals, and that is something special. And I love that. I love that. Even though it's been the opposite for me as it is for you, it is justifiably the same action, the same response, basically.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Again, though, like you say, sort of coming around to that point that a lot of the people who you do talk to in this area, I think there's such a flood of people who are, well, I like this band. I don't really want to talk about music. I just want to talk about my fandom. I see your point. That kind of maybe waters down the opportunity to speak about more broad things. So yeah, that's really, to be honest, I think that's one of the biggest topics for me with doing this whole thing, is addressing, trying to get through to people on these subjects. So what I want to sort of now have a little talk about, I'm intrigued. Yeah. You've only recently gone over to doing these different types of videos from reactions. Where do you think that it's going? Where do you think your channel's going? What is your aim? What do you want to make? What is your calling on YouTube?
It's so funny because within the past week and a half, I've been experimenting with my content. I've been editing the formats of a couple different shows that I feel like I'm going to take with me to the grave as far as YouTube is concerned. So there has still been evolution within my channel. And even when I started reaction videos, I did what everybody else did. I put the video in the corner, I watch it, I react to it, upload it, done. And then I went out and bought a green screen, and then I had the video that I was reacting to behind me, blurred, and in the corner, and it kind of added something to it that I didn't see a lot of reactors doing. And I've kept that sort of evolution going. I always want to improve. I always want to do better. I see my channel right now kind of picking at the worms in the ground, trying to get substance, just because there's, like I said, not nearly as many subscribers coming in as there were when I was making reaction videos, but the content I'm creating, I think, is going to bring in an audience that I guess generally appeals to what I'm doing on YouTube. At least that's the hope. I'm looking for that target market and everything, and YouTube itself really is, you gotta sell yourself. It's a market. It really has become less of a place for creative content and creative content creators to go to, and more so a place for profit and marketability. And I had a YouTube channel about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was monetized, and it was great for a while, but then I got stressed out by my own schedule, trying to keep up with all these bands, going to work 40 hours a week, and then coming home and doing the same crap on the computer, so I gave up on it, as well as all the haters. Yeah. And that's a young, people are just vicious online. So the second you figure out how to deal with these assholes, the better.
Yeah.
I've dealt with them for 6 months now, and I think I got it. I think I got it tuned in. But I think going in the second time around, this is round 2 for me, right? I don't want to monetize my channel.
No.
I want it to remain ad-free. Eventually I'll make a Patreon like everybody else in the goddamn community does. But I don't want these stupid tiers either. I want one tier, and it's $1, and if you want to give me $1 or more, go ahead. If you don't, keep watching my content. I'm not going to block anything from you. I'm not going to create a content wall where you have to, have the $5 Patreon tier to access this content. I don't want to do that. I want to provide as much creative content as possible to my audience and my target audience, because I'm not in it for the money, and I'm not in it to make a job out of it. And if I do end up making a job out of it in 5 or 6 years, however long it takes, great, but I'm not going to change my ways. I'm really into YouTube and creating content for the sole purpose of entertainment and immersiveness between myself and my audience. And that's really where I want to take the channel. And if it takes me twice as long to get there as it would if I was doing reaction channels, fine, so be it. But at least I will feel satisfied on a personal level doing it and find the audience that I actually want, that actually interacts with me and I can talk to on a daily.
What really amuses me about this is that regardless of the way that we first met, the irony is that it's very...
No, it was a great first meeting.
It was fantastic. It's fantastic, though, because it's nice. You're the first person I've spoken to in this creative space who's basically saying the exact same things that I've said from the start as well. I mean, sort of non-monetization. Although we have tiers on the Patreon, that's kind of for different reasons. There's no content rule. Everyone gets the access to the exact same things for that reason, because it is a community thing, because the whole idea is that it's not about watch this advert. It's not about pay for this content. It's about, well, here is a space for all of us to talk. So it's very nice to hear that despite the different approaches, we have the same philosophy on that. The intriguing thing is obviously talking about the pride in what you make. Now, I think a lot of, like you say, the pride in what you make is that you make very good quality videos. Like I said, I remember watching the first video and the ones I've watched subsequently, including the reactions, like you said, with the green screen in the background, and looking at them and saying, well, this has been made with care. This has been made with thought. This is not just something slapped in the corner of the screen. I think for me, the pride in what I do is I deliberately go, because I mean, I love doing video editing. It's something that I do professionally as well. But I know that if I do that, I'll go down the rabbit hole of spending like a day on every single video, and I won't have any time left in my life. I kind of more pride myself in giving as thorough an analysis as is possible. But like you say, there is that factor that I'm connecting with the people through doing the reaction format. Do you think that the reaction videos as a general, I mean, like I say, I'm trying to steer people who would usually watch reaction videos into actually listen to an analysis. Do you think that whole reaction thing is a thing that will eventually die out? Do you think this is something that we are stuck with, that there will always be the people doing these sort of 3-minute watch it and then leave, please subscribe videos? Or do you think that people will get sick of it and it'll die away?
By the way, I'm Mr. Nikku, and you can subscribe to my channel at youtube.com/c/bringthenoise_official. Thank you.
The link is at the bottom of the screen.
Oh, thank you. I don't put that much effort into my metadata.
I put more effort into these videos than I do into my normal content.
Well, like I said, I'll spend hours editing a damn video, and then by that time, I'm so worn out. I'm just trying to get the title and the description. I'm like, fuck it. I'm tired. I'm done. Just upload it.
The tags is always the nightmare. Like, do I really have to think about these? Isn't there a machine can do this? But
the tags are awful. I wish I could just download a bot that just looks up the most relevant content for my video and just...
TubeBuddy does a decent job, but not quite enough. Anyway,
so
sorry. Yeah.
There is something I really wanted to talk about with you, and I think you'll find it intriguing. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know you yet. I'm learning you. I'm figuring you out.
Go for it.
Yes. But YouTube, I started YouTube with my friends back in high school. That means starting probably in 06 or 07. So I've been with YouTube for a while. And back then we were making like comedic skits and parodies based off of like, I don't know, whatever was relevant back then. Like I remember a Saw video we did, and it was stupid, but it was hilarious, you know? And that's the kind of stuff we love to make. And since the beginning of YouTube, we've had stuff similar to reaction videos that are low quality, but it's content that is digestible by a major audience, such as vlogs and the like. Yeah. And honestly, YouTube has come a long way. I remember YouTube having that 5-star system, and I missed the hell out of that system because I think that was way more, like, you could tell if a video was good or not by the Yelp review on a YouTube video, rather than this bullshit like-dislike crap that they just stole from Facebook. Yeah. But YouTube itself as a platform, I believe, has not changed since its starting days. As far as content and content creators are concerned, there will always be well-made quality videos, and then there's going to be the videos that have a little less quality, but more so have the quantity to them, such as reaction videos do. And I see reactors these days who upload 3 to 6 videos in a single day. And yes, I understand it's their living. They're making a living off of it. But there is such a thing as beating a dead horse. And then they're taking the horse's corpse and using it for glue. I mean, they're just not stopping, and they're just milking the cow dry. And that's fine. That's fine. They're making a living off of it, but there has always been that sort of content. So creative content is still there, but I don't consider reaction videos, vlogs, ASMR videos even, to be creative content. No offense. They're easy to do. They're easy to make. They're very simplified. It takes very little effort to put them out. And I'm saying this because I've done reaction videos and the like before. I know what it takes, and it takes probably a quarter or less of the time to make a reaction video for me than it does to actually make a quality content, creative video on YouTube. And that's fine. You showed me the error of my ways. If you want to make reaction videos, that's fine. I got friends that are reactors. And reactions, I found out through 4 months of doing them, just aren't for me. But YouTube has never changed. There will always be reactors. There will always be ASMR videos. There will always be vlogs. And there will always be content such as mine available by content creators on the platform.
I really thought that ASMR was new, so I didn't know that it's always been around.
Well, the recent half decade, but... Yeah. It's a comparison. It's a comparison.
No,
Even though ASMR is kind of relative and new, there are videos that are comparative to them.
Well, I think that because this comes into an interesting area. I mean, again, I totally get the intention of what you're saying. I'm not picking that apart, but more just sort of to look at some of the things that you've brought up there. I think that there is often this connection made, and once again, I say this as someone who, in my actual day job, I have to do a lot of video editing as well, a lot of music and video editing. So I do totally appreciate the amount of work that goes into making that kind of content. I do think that sometimes this is a thing that people do focus on very much, though, is they look at something and they value it based on how much time went into it, which is it's a fair metric, but sometimes can avoid things. I mean, to use a musical comparison, if you looked at something like a punk band, and then you put it alongside classical music, it's like we can all look at that and say, well, look, yeah, classical music, there's a quality that has to be appreciated, but there are going to be some people who genuinely just enjoy the punk more because they just want that kind of simple outlet.
Very good analogy.
Same thing could be said for like pop groups, who don't write their own music. There's always that sort of balance. So I think the quality of the material is always going to be subjective to how much people enjoy it as an audience. I guess the question could be, really, does YouTube properly separate these things? Because they are very different types of content. Right. Does YouTube favor... I mean, I don't know the answer to this, but do you think that YouTube favors algorithmically those sort of easy reaction videos, like you say, the ones that are, people can dump out 3 of them in a day? Do you think that YouTube is favoring that kind of content and not giving enough space to the videos that are produced with more time and effort?
Absolutely. For 2 weeks straight, I had the same 5 BAND-MAID reactors being recommended to me on my personal channel, not Mr Nikku, but the channel I use just to watch the channels I enjoy. And I was getting sick of it. I'm like, just fuck off, would you? Okay, yeah. I don't want to watch them. And I would watch a minute of them, and it's the same stuff I've seen time and time again.
Yeah.
Like we said, welcome to my channel. Let's react to this. Okay, that was fun. See you next time, everybody. Don't forget, subscribe and like. Hey, we got merch below. Links below. Go, go, go.
Oh, wait for me to make my thumbnail.
Yes. Oh my god, I fucking hate the thumbnails.
They are really... Oh,
they're
cringe-inducing. They're really cringe-inducing. It's always the face has to be stretched, and then there'll be an emoji of... Yeah, just because their face isn't enough, you need an emoji to even accent it even... Yeah, no, I get that.
I love the emoji ones. Those are the best, like the fire emoji or the blank eyes with the blue kind of streaks going under them. You see it all the time. And the titles. Can we talk about the titles real quick?
Yes.
Titles to reaction videos are ridiculous. I saw one, it was probably another BAND-MAID video where it said something like, wife from the UK listens to BAND-MAID. As if that's like a professional title or something. I don't give a shit if she's from the UK, okay? She's just another woman reacting to BAND-MAID. Just like you're another man.
Why do we need to know she's married? What's that got to do with her taste? It's like married people have very different tastes in music.
Well, there was a great trend going on for a while where it was Japanese person reacts to American, history of Japan or something, Like I love this one. Japanese person reacts to Filthy Frank.
Okay,
have you seen those?
I haven't seen that, but I'm tempted to look that up now, just out of terror. But then again, if I look that up, I'm going to be in the same situation as you, with YouTube recommending stuff I don't want to watch.
Yes, YouTube is going to say, "Oh, you like this content, huh? Oh, we give you more. Yeah, poo, 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 poo." And it's going to be never ending. It's going to be an avalanche.
No thanks, YouTube. No thanks.
No, please stop.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. The titles are like amazing. Like and some of them are the hyperbolic ones are brilliant. Like wow, this song is fire. Oh my god, can't believe this song changed my life. First time ever listening to, and then you watch them listening for the first time ever, and they curiously know all of the musical cues to react to. It's like,
yes, that's the other thing. That's so easy for reactors to listen and watch the videos and music before they react and just fake it.
I hate
and
that,
if you're good enough at acting, you can fool any the average IQ in America is what, like 76? So you could probably fool 90% of the population, right?
I really hope that's not true.
Easy.
I really hope that's not true.
Oh, it's true. I live here. It's true. Have you seen what happened at the Capitol recently? It's true.
I was trying to erase that from my mind.
I thought it was a giant joke. I was like, really? Really? This is happening? Okay.
Yeah, at first I was like, wow, and then I looked at it, like, oh, they managed to get in. Oh, the guy is wearing
that was
a
incredible.
Valkyrie outfit.
The Capitol. They broke into the Capitol. One of the most secure places in the U.S. They broke into the Capitol.
Secure only in reputation, clearly, not in actuality. Yeah, no, I think you're right, though. I think there is that general thing that I think also people want to be fooled. I think when people watch these videos, they want to believe it's a real reaction because they want to be, like I say, they want a friend who's going to listen to their favourite song and tell them it's great. They want that sort of approval that comes from someone else watching it.
Teacher, pick me. Okay. I actually, for the first time in about a year, watched the reaction video.
Okay.
And it was this, I love this guy. Old music composer reacts to Tool Schism. And he had some great points. The entire time he was listening to the song, you could see his mouth mumbling the lyrics very quietly, so he knew exactly what to expect. And yet nobody thought, oh, this is his first time, isn't it? I loved it.
Yeah. I just... There is something very disingenuous about the entire genre. I mean, again, though, we have to say, look, if people are entertained by this, if they just want someone to give them the sense of approval they need, fair enough. But it does still kind of bother me that there is this whole... Sorry, yeah, the air conditioner. It makes weird noises occasionally. It's very high up. There is this weird thing that people... I'm happy for people to make different types of content, but when the content is based on a fundamental lie, that's kind of just where I think, is this really good for content creators as a general, that there are so many people who are pretending to react to something that they're not, and then even on the basis of that still can't give a detailed review. So in a way, I hope that the reaction genre is something that will die down.
But you're a reactor.
I don't consider myself to be. You make
reaction videos, so what's the difference?
Because the videos, well, this is the question. If I do a video and it's 15 minutes long, and 12 minutes of that is a review and 3 minutes of that is a reaction, what fundamentally is it? I mean, if I buy myself a stripped out racing Ferrari, and then I put like a one piece of wood on my dashboard, does it become a luxury car? You know, it's
So what you're saying is a majority of your content is not reaction videos.
yeah, the reaction is simply there to bring in the people who want it, and because, like I say, when I talk to the people in my Discord, I bring this topic up every sort of 6 months or so. Just okay, you know.
Of course. Yep.
How would people feel if we just did this as a review? People kind of as a general say, well, look, we like the reactions, so I keep them in for that reason. Ultimately, though, I'm not there to react. I mean, I have to listen to the song anyway, so if people want me to have a camera on when I do it, fine. My main reason I make the videos, though, is to talk about music, is to have the discussion, is to analyze the music from my perspective and challenge people to present different views, to look at it a different way. So I would say that what I do as a general is that's just something that is there. The reaction is there because it's stuck, because people want it. I mean, this originally came from a radio show that we were doing. It was a couple of years. So the channel was going for over 2 years now. And before that, we had a radio show, and it was just a sort of reviewing music, just sort of talking about music, and there were some skits and things on there as well. It was like me and the rest of the people who are kind of still involved. We did that, and it came over to YouTube, and we thought, well, how can we make this palatable for YouTube? It's like, well, let's appeal to the reactor market, but then when they come over, let's give them something which actually has content, you know. So it's like, okay, you've come for the reaction, now the reaction's finished, and let's dive into 10 minutes of in-depth reviewing. So for me, that has translated to the fact that the people who've stuck around, the community who are on the Discord talking every day, who are in the community, they're there talking about the analysis. They're there talking about that side of things. So I would say that what I do primarily isn't reacting. And if we dropped the reaction side from the videos, it would make no difference to me whatsoever. If there was no reaction in it, I mean, like I say, we've actually now separated the reactions, and now we're on a separate place. You have to click a separate link to even see that. I just go straight into the review now. If it was taken away from me, it would make no difference. It's only kept at the general request of people. So, yeah, I do still maintain that if the reaction genre was one that went away, I would kind of think that would be better for YouTube in a lot of ways. Not to deprive people of what they want, but I do think that YouTube needs more, and people as a general need to talk about what they like more, to enjoy discussing it, to actually be engaged with what they like rather than seeing it as a background noise. So that's kind of my view on the future of YouTube. That's my view on what I hope is the future of people's entertainment, is that people become more involved, sort of less backseat in the music that they like.
And like you're saying, it's not just up to the content creators on YouTube, but also it's very dependent on the audience.
Yeah.
And what they want and what they choose to watch as far as content is concerned. So I agree with you there. You're walking a fine line, but you make a great argument. All I can really think of right now is how we can change reaction videos from these kind of lazy, degenerate, I just put out 6 reactions today, there'll be 6 more tomorrow, kind of standards that channels have on YouTube. And like you said, it's not the only thing you do, and it wasn't the only thing I did, but it definitely made up a majority of content, got those subscribers, and that's why I was kind of more ashamed of at the time. But I'm really starting to brainstorm how I can take a reaction video and just flip it on its head almost. And I don't know. I mean, do you have any ideas?
Well, I mean, supply and demand is the issue. In the, people will always go looking for it, and thus it will always exist. Like I say, this is why the only approach I could think of that I thought was justifiable was to make that content, but then not leave it at that. Make that content as a portion of what I actually wanted to do, which was talk about music. And so I think for me, that has been effective. I mean, the previous channel, before we had the copyright problems, the audience was growing very, very quickly. The irony is that we were talking a lot about big name bands like BAND-MAID and Baby Metal, and we went through so much of their material. And just out of honesty, I'm not going back to react to it because I'm not doing a second reaction to something I've already covered. Therefore, meaning that obviously it's much slower to build up the subscriber base this time. But one of the other things that I toyed with, I had a bit of fun with the idea of deliberately doing as stereotypical as possible reaction video, and deliberately hitting
thinking the same thing,
all the notes, but then actually putting it out to attract people's interest, but in a way that they could see it's deliberately a joke. Every time if someone does a guitar solo, immediately hit space, stand up, walk out the room like, I can't.
No, sir, I'm there with you. I want to do the same exact thing. Just to kind of take a dump on, like what we've been talking about for like half an hour now.
Yeah, I think that ultimately the only way to really approach it is accept like I say, although I hope that it's a degree, it's a fad, and people will steer towards more. I don't want to say more quality, but more engaging content where there's actually something being created by the person who's making the video, whether it be conversation or whether it be something more visual. Whatever it is, I think people are, I want people to engage with these videos more. So I think really all we can really try and do is try and scoop up as many people who are watching those videos anyway, offer them some form of content, and supply and demand. They'll either like it or they won't. If they don't like it, that's fine. As you were saying, they're happy to like what they like. But my hope is that people will, like I say, come to, say, a reaction video, and then when they see that it's not finished immediately after the song, stick around and actually go, hey, yeah, that's interesting. I didn't think about that. Here's my
So you're
comment.
catfishing?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think that's.
Sure. Yeah. You're catfishing viewers. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do. I mean, to be honest though, I do, like I say, I sometimes do crave for the idea of doing what you're doing and just sort of do something which is 100% engineered to be my type of video.
Sure.
I have done some things like that. We do our every year we do our end of year award thing where we give awards to the music that we like and have a bit of fun with that. That's something where I sit down and I edit that and we have good fun making that look as silly as possible. And occasionally other videos are a bit more engineered. But so yes, I do have an appreciation, and no doubt I would very much enjoy to do what you do. But like I said, I think I would spend way too long editing graphics and not long enough thinking about content myself. So I would probably end up steering that in the wrong
direction. That's what a script is for. That's where the content comes from. You gotta start there, Baby steps. Baby steps.
I find I waffle enough without a script that I can.
I could have made 8 different videos today if I wanted, but I'm still working on the same 2-minute video that I started at 3 o'clock, and it's about 7:30 my time now. So, but I've been also talking with you since God knows when. So
yeah, I was about to say, I think we've managed to wonderfully cover many, many wonderful topics. Anyway, well, yeah, I think we can round that one off, and I just wanted to say, first of all, a massive thank you for you agreeing to do this, for you being so well-humoured about our discussion as well.
Try.
It's always interesting to see when someone else responds to what you're doing. And especially I do like it when someone responds with a degree of criticism, because it gives you something to think about. It pushes you to think about what you're doing and look in the mirror as well. And I must admit that upon watching your video, I did take a moment to sit back and laugh at seeing the footage myself and going, you know what? I do link and sync one time and you're right. It did.
I'm sorry, it was bad timing. It was.
It was
It really
like
was.
one in literally over 1,000 videos we've done since we started doing this. I was like, I did it one time, and I always said I'll never do link and sync. I do it one time, and someone leaves a comment saying, "Hey, someone's taken a clip of your video." I watch it. I go, Jesus Christ.
Wait, did somebody say that?
Yeah,
Who said that?
It was one of my followers. He's a really good guy. Who's actually when I first got into BAND-MAID, he gave me all of their CDs to listen to. He just said, "Here's all their CDs. Listen to them." I was like, "Wow." But he was like, "Hey, Howard, you should check this out." And I watched it. And I was like,
I'm gonna look that up. That's hilarious.
But like I said, I'm really glad. The best thing that's come from this YouTube is the community on the channel is fantastic. So active, always talking, always sort of spotting things out for me. Telling me when there's concerts, helping me sort of go to things, getting me the music when I need it. It's really, like I say. I mean, I think after the problems we had last year with the copyright issue, I probably would have stopped doing it entirely and switched back to radio if it hadn't, or to a different type of content, if it hadn't been for the fact the community was so active and so strong. I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm enjoying doing this because of that aspect. So yeah, no, brilliant stuff. Anyway, but like I say, a big thank you to yourself, sir. We will of course be plugging your links. So I do hope that people go and check out your channel. Like I say, it's interesting because it's a different kind of content to what we do. But you certainly do put your opinions forward, which is always great. That's what it's all about, after all. So I am going to we're gonna stay on this call a little bit longer. But to everyone who is out there, thank you so much for tuning in. I will say a goodbye to you, and until we see you, hopefully very soon. From me, ciao ciao, and from Nick. It's like a silent.
Do I say something? Hey everybody, I'm Mr. Nikku. Thanks for tuning in to Baka Broadcast. You just got a new subscriber. You just went over 500 subscribers. Congratulations, Baka. I'm glad to be a part of your community as well now. If anybody's interested, definitely check me out. Links below. Baka, take over.
That was amazing. I just can't. Ciao, ciao, everyone.